So to remember that, the multiple piles, large scale burns, windrows, grass burning, that's catch you in the fall for that basically now. Also, we got our seasonal speed zone along Dutch Lake corridor. And I believe, staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's on until September 15th. Is that the day tentatively we're at, or in around there? Okay, and also just, I know a lot of people think that speed limit goes around the clock, but it is only applied from dawn till dusk, so people need to remember that. It's just during the daytime. And third one, as of today, our water restrictions are in effect, so same as past years. Even numbered houses, even days, odd numbered on odd days. And then if you do, if anyone's laid turf or planted seeds recently, they can register with the district for daily watering until first mow. So just a couple little things to reminder, and that's
Awesome.
about it for me.
Thank you for bringing all those up. We sometimes just see it and forget to do it, so it's good. Councillor Matheson is away on work. Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much, and thanks, Councillor McKenzie, for those reminders, and thank you to Councillor Bratton and her team for the successful parade. There was a lot of people who were excited to be in it and to be promoted. I think the BC Parks is so enthusiastic. Like they are just, I think they've been planning since last May 21st. From that parade, I did have a couple of inquiries and wondered if council in the budget planning for next year, there would be considerations for tax incentives for businesses to upgrade their buildings. And I said I didn't know. But I know that other communities do that, and I think we've considered it.
We've considered it in the past.
Nothing else. The other question that came up was around the River Road, and currently that there is a large tree that's down on there just towards the middle canyon. And there was inquiry whether or not Wells Gray, Tourism Wells Gray, or council had dialogue with Parks in regards to taking that tree burl out. I guess it relates to kayak tourism and wanting to get further up the canyon closer to where that washout is.
Oh, so that's must be new, because I know people that were up there within the last 5 or 7 days. I don't know whose turf that is, so I'm sure one of the rafting companies I can check with afterwards and try to figure out who's.
I think it was really just more of an inquiry based on the independent kayakers, because
Just to find the location to just say, before somebody just goes and magically cuts it, which would be actually sort of I can't suggest that.
Well, it's quite large, so it's not recommended.
Yeah. So. Okay, yeah. So it will either fall under one of 3 jurisdictions for government. Mr. Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That's something staff could look into as far as who we would call and whose responsibility it is. If you could just touch base as far as the exact location, I'm not sure where you mean on River Road. So
yeah, if I was a kayaker, I'd have more details, but
well, take a little trip down there and send us back a pin on it.
You know what I should do is I'll bring Councillor Herring and we'll bike, and I'll send him ahead of me. So thank you very much. It'll be good. It's nice to see how many people are out on the river so much earlier, and that's just another facet of the economy in Clearwater, which is great. And then also thanks to those who participated in the Moose Hide and the dinner last week. That was great. And the other question that came up is, have the tax notices been mailed, and if not, is there a communication plan given the pending postal strike?
Oh, good question on the postal strike. But
to my best understanding, the tax notices have not been mailed yet, and there is a mailer what goes out with those notices as they go out. However, our director of finance, Linda, is not here, so I would need to confirm that. As far as what the date was, I'm not exactly positive.
So what I'm understanding is that you don't think that they have been mailed yet?
They have not been mailed, because generally at this point, councillors, you will receive yours if you live in town, in your mailbox to save on postage. So I have checked my mailbox. It is not in my mailbox.
And what happens with the Friday postal strike? What happens then?
That's a really great question, and it depends on how long, if there is actual a wide strike or if it's localized strikes, and how long that lasts. Depending what the severity of that strike is, we'll have to really get out there and let people know what their options are for paying those bills. Because even with if a strike does occur, people have to pay the bills by the due date. But then you have other options as far as, making sure you can go into your bank and pay them, or calling in here and getting a copy of their invoice or whatever.
So it will be their responsibility to get their tax notice.
Correct. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and also suggest that I know that provincial and federal correspondence does go through, and I don't know about local government. Even when there is a strike, it is delivered. So there's a lot more to this. So we'll let staff investigate that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything under CAO's report? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there was an item we had planned to put on the agenda, and that was to do with the TNRD Blackpool Fire Grant and Aid request. And this comes out of the presentation from the chief of the Blackpool Fire Department last council meeting. There were some recommendations tied around that, but an internal recommendation from that was that staff should review and update the grant and aid policy of the district. And the grant and aid policy of the district is actually very out of date. It's from 2008, and it does not reflect the realities of the community fund, which was established by Wells Grey Community Forest. So what we would like to do is take this time to update that policy, bring it back to council for some input into it, and get a new policy actually ratified through council before we actually have a grant and aid application in place. Then it allows you to think more about what do you want to see in this policy, and you're not thinking about the specifics of an individual request. So our intent is to bring that back to council in short order. I don't believe that I need a resolution on that. It is just bringing it back, but that's our goal is to bring that back. And apparently the request from the TNRD may still come forward at some point in the future. So it would be good to have our policy laid out and updated. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Johnson, on that? Okay, moving on to new business. 16.1 water meter pilot project update budget amendment. There is a recommendation, a staff report on that one. That is page 2326 of your revised agenda. Any questions of staff, or well, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Oh, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I would like to present a little bit of this information, and it's certainly open for questions from council. I want to apologize in advance, though. You're going to hear a lot of me this afternoon. Chad is away on vacation. Alcid had a report that he was going to present about the Arts Council, and he's at a spring wildfire readiness conference down in Kamloops, so you will be hearing me on lots of reports. So I apologize in advance. So with regards to the water meter project, there's been starting to be quite a bit of discussion out there in the community. That grant is actually a really great grant from the perspective that it's 100% funded. From this grant, the expectation is that we will be able to, at no cost to the residents and property owners, install a new meter plus installation. The timing on that is we're thinking our best guess right now will be in 2026, with this year being set for the planning and communication. So lots of public engagement, education, awareness, updates to relevant bylaws, detailed planning and scheduling of installation activities, preparation of tender documents and procurement, and coordination with the engineering consultants, and a rollout to residents to track usages and identify anomalies. In 2026, the installation of the actual meters. And at that point in time, that's actually it's pretty cool technology now. It reports back on an hourly basis. So the information is essentially live, and that live information allows us to really get a quick handle on leaks and performance monitoring. So if there's excessive consumption, we'll be able to tell. The background to the whole grant and why we were successful is because our water consumption at the district on a per capita basis is very high. And the numbers aren't in the report, and I just can't quote them verbatim, but it's very high consumption.
250 to 400% of BC average.
That's what I've heard. And we can't tell from the information that we currently have whether that's actual consumption, how much is leakage, is it some larger leaks or a combination of many smaller leaks. Well, this program is a combination of residential meters and all commercial meters, plus some district monitoring as well. So we'll really hopefully be able to pinpoint where those leaks are. The advantage of that, of course, is it should help defer when we need to spend more money on the water production side of our infrastructure, new wells or potentially a new reservoir, which we talked about some in council chambers. So it has the benefit of extending what we do, just if we can get more value out of the water that we currently produce. The other benefit is from a homeowner perspective. There's lots of homeowners concerned about the water consumption. They want to do the right thing and minimize water consumption. There's all kinds of options to do that, whether it's through landscaping practices or whatever they choose to do, or just take less showers. But there's lots of options as far as reducing consumption, and this gives not only the information to property owners about their consumption, but then an incentive for reducing that consumption. So I think it's good news all around. Of course, there's people, you'll hear some concerns. One of the concerns we've heard that's come up a couple of times is that, what about those folks who've had to go out and buy their own meters? So the old improvement district bylaws required property or new residences to put in water meters. And my understanding was that the price was around $400. I think that's what kind of the current price is, not that old price. So, but still, they had to put out hard money to get those. So the question is, can something be done for those residents? And the answer really is no. And the reason why is that there's all kinds of items within a building bylaw what are not necessarily used by the property owner. They're never needed. Backflow prevention. It's the best insurance you can get. But if you never need it, then you've spent more money on it than you need. And some municipalities require solar ready, where you have to do extra wiring in their house, be prepared for solar on the roof of the homes. And if you don't ever intend to do it, it's an extra expense, right? So there's all kinds of issues around the building bylaw where they're trying to do the best practices at the time of the building bylaw, with the foreseeing that, at some point in time this will be required, or may be required by certain property owners in the future. But a lot of that is never used. I believe water meters fall into the same category. The other thing on that one topic is that the new meters we'll be providing have more function. So more function, allow quicker leak detection, which is a benefit to the property owners that they wouldn't find even with the older style meters. And the reason you can't use most of those old style meters is the technology is changing so fast. So back in the day, it used to be with the first water meter, someone would have to drive around with a meter reader and drive past the property, get close enough to actually do a reading. So that's no longer the technology. The current technology is more of a wireless type system. So we don't think most of those old meters, even if we said yes, we don't think that they would work. And in particular, some of those old meters, they're aging out now, right? So they need to be replaced anyways. And when you start with a new system, what you really are looking for is to start everyone on the same platform. So no one has semi-worn out pieces of equipment that they're trying to utilize, right? So that is the intent. And that is the main question that's come up so far. So there's going to be lots of engagement. I'm sure there'll be other questions, and we're happy to answer any of those questions moving forward. Sorry, I just ad-libbed the report. Oh, sorry, but we did want to get a specific resolution. So The water meter project will be a 24-month project over 3 fiscal years. Project costs are estimated to be $230,000 in 2025, $1,843,000 in 2026, and $230,000 in 2027. So we are asking for a resolution that council approves the budget amendments to include those funds, $230,000 in 2025, $1,843,000 in 2026, and $230,000 in 2027. Funded by the BC Water Meter Project Grant, and we're asking for council to include that as a budget amendment. Thank you.
Questions for staff? Councillor Sim, go ahead.
Thanks very much, and I think it's really important that it's 100% funded by this grant, which I think is important. Some of the questions that have come forward is that under phase 1, you've got engagement with council to develop the framework of public engagement and water meter implementation. Is the intention of the grant that all people using district water would be required to have a water meter?
Yes, but there may be specific cases where it's not available or they're not on water. I've actually asked that specific question to our engineers, and they're still working through those details. So I think the broad answer is yes. If there's exceptions, it will be limited to specific circumstances.
And then the second question is regarding to the third point there is updates to relevant bylaws to support metering and potential usage billing. Is that going to be done in conjunction with the engagement, because a bylaw might indicate whether or not it was mandatory or how it might fit into district fiscal plans?
I apologize. Could you repeat that question?
What bylaw is going to be required?
So the bylaw will be required will be our water, a few bylaws. Mm-hmm. The building bylaw to make sure that these are the meters that are getting installed. The water fees and charges bylaw will need to be updated. Often what municipalities do as well is at the same time they will update their sewer fees bylaw, because in essence, water goes in, sewer goes out. So you have a better understanding of the demand on the sewer system as well. So those bylaws are typically the ones that get updated. What usually happens with regards to the rate, there's usually a cutover period where municipalities, they'll send out the usage volumes but still bill at the old rate for a period of time, and then so people can take a look at their bill, understand, hey, this seems right or this seems way excessive or there's an issue. It allows them to look for issues before they get billed on that usage amount. But that cutover period, I haven't been involved in a discussion about how long that is. I think some municipalities have done it for a year, and I think some have even done it for 2 years, just to allow people to get used to that new billing. And we'll be this is pretty widespread technology, and it's being used everywhere. So we'll be looking for best practices around that and putting that out to the community.
And Ashcroft is going through the same process as they were successful in Cran. And it's also a good reminder to people that generally water and sewer systems are managed at break even plus placement cost system. So, we're still looking at what does it cost for us to supply water as sort of the amount of money that we would need to receive from billing, whether it be flat rate or meter taxation. So, and maybe further comment to that.
Thank you. And that actually raises a really great point, Mr. Mayor. Even municipalities would have gone to usage billings. There's also a fixed fee component on the bill. Similar to what you would see with the utilities, any other utilities commission type bills, right? Where you say, well, I use a fee for this, and this, and then your usage is actually one number that's nowhere near the total. That is often what happens with water, because you can't have someone, if they turn off the water, that they don't have to pay for the system. Everyone needs to still contribute to it, or else it drives your usage rates quite high and makes a very large differential, because you still need to be able to operate the system. And as the mayor referred to, this is not about trying to turn a profit off the water system. Not even slightly. Our water system is designed to be we want to break even, and we want to break even on a sustainability perspective. So once you consider the whole fixed asset management perspective, and then it'll tell you, okay, here's your break even rate for water. Here's the amount of money we need to raise in a year. And like I say, a combination of a fixed rate and then a user fee rate.
Great.
Okay, further?
Yeah, and then I think that leads into, I think the good news is that this is a really proactive measure in the fact that without it, the district might be required to look at new water sources, which is much more expensive. So this is a proactive measure. People may or may not like it or love it. Some people may be used to it, which leads to the next point is, does the grant cover the installation?
Yes. So the intent behind the grant is that there's no cost to homeowners.
Okay, and that's
Covers the
even for
installation.
the cut-in installation and where they might have to have something outside the property? Is that correct? So it doesn't matter as long as...
That is correct. So some of them will require pit installations. The goal is to minimize those because those are more expensive. The advantage of a pit installation is that it can be installed, and if there's water leaks from the cutoff right to the house, anywhere from where it's installed to the house, it will pick them up. If it's a cut-in installation inside the home, any of the supply line from the road to the home still is just an unverified leak. So there's advantages doing pit installations, but they're more costly, and we've only been allocated, I think it's up to 10% of the installations can be pit installations.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and just a comment question for me. In a situation like a trailer park where individual homes wouldn't be metered, it's a strata system, that would most likely be a point of entry or curb stop location probably for that meter.
I believe yes, but I can't confirm that exactly. That's a good question, and it's the same with any other apartment buildings or whatnot, right? It's likely enough to be right at the point where it goes into the building.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bratton.
I just wanted to have one little clarification, and this is according to a resident that had talked to me. It was $4,000 to put their water meter in, and it seemed to be quite something that was they needed to have in order to get their final. So to me, it's kind of interesting that we required it, or that our bylaws required it with no intention of ever using them. So when do we revisit bylaws and whatnot, so that if things have to keep being installed but we don't use them, when do we revisit that if they're unnecessary?
Thank you. And depending what the features are in the bylaws, some of those are mandated by the province.
Right.
And some of those are incremental on top in local bylaws.
Gotcha.
Typically, bylaws have, as they're getting more complex with the new standards around building efficiency and all that, most municipalities have gone just to the provincial bylaws, especially smaller municipalities, right?
So it may not have been our request. It could have been provincial right from the get-go.
I can't confirm that. It was. I know we inherited that bylaw from the improvement district,
Right.
so it was an improvement district bylaw that brought that
Okay.
in.
And as for intent, I think the intent was actually to use them, but we
Well,
needed,
for sure.
we never got to the critical mass of meters where it was going to be a useful tool, because we haven't had that many houses built since that was enacted. But go ahead, Councillor Herring, you have a point on that?
Yeah, I do think, though, that you have a really good point about the kinds of things we require for builds, and some of those provincial bylaws versus the local requirements really bear us kind of investigating. A good example would be stormwater management plans, where you've got one house in a row of houses that's required to dig a ditch. So you've got a ditch for 30 feet and then nobody else with a ditch. Yeah. Right? So, things like that I do think are worth us opening up again and reinvestigating, and I think maybe that's something we can look at post OCP.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Agreed.
have one
Go
more.
ahead, Councillor Bratton.
And then when would engagement planning start? Do we have a plan of that?
2025.
Okay, sounds
It starts today if you all pass this. So we can start right there. So apparently we may not be online today. I don't know. Anyways, so Councillor Herring.
I'd like to make a motion to move option 1, that we approve the budget amendments to include 230,460 in 2025, 1.843680 in 2026, and 230,460 in 2027.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder on that? Seconded by Councillor Mackenzie with the speedy hands. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. And apparently we now have a staff report on a fire department truck and a recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. So the one truck that I use daily, we purchased it used in 2018 as 5 or so years old. Had about 110,000 kilometers on it. Fast forward to today, needs over $10,000 worth of mechanical work, plus the body is rotting. We were going to come next year with a business case for replacement. There's a major brake malfunction now, so very, very unsafe. So we're looking to move that to this year, utilize fire department reserve to fund it with a new vehicle, just to be reliable for daily use for the fire department, for the fire chief, or whoever's the duty officer when I'm not here. So we found one on a with fairly high incentives because it's a 2024 brand new, but they're trying to get rid of it. That's kind of it.
Any questions, Mr. Smith? First one I have for you. I'm going to assume even though we're using it for business use, it still has full warranty for a 4-year term or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you bet.
Thank you. I think I knew that because I bought a lot of business vehicles. Any further questions? Councillor Sim.
So in the report, it references an underutilized vehicle in the facilities department. What does that facilities vehicle do? And could that vehicle be used for the fire chief and an alternate vehicle be used for facilities?
I'll take that one.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
That's
So
separate
that
from
vehicle
me.
being used is for use over at the NTSP. It is a little bit underutilized, but it is used when NTSP people go away for training or they need it for the day-to-day usage over at the NTSP. It's typically parked over there, so people think, oh, it doesn't get used, it's always parked. Well, it's not a go-home-at-night vehicle, but it is used. The issue we have with trying to reuse that, it could be used in the short term, but at one point council made the decision to add the vehicle there. I think it's still the right decision. The other issue is when you have a vehicle like what the fire chief uses where it needs continuous use, we're going to have to, even when we buy a new one, we're going to have to spend money getting it deckled up, getting the lights changed out, getting the stuff done to it. It doesn't make sense to repurpose another used vehicle and try to put it into the fleet. For continuous used vehicles, my own recommendation would be, and for the reasons of warranty and getting a long life out of the vehicle and getting something where you kind of know what you're getting as opposed to a used one, it doesn't make sense to have a used vehicle put into as a duty vehicle for the fire chief, in my own opinion.
Okay. Further questions, comments? Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Councillor Sim. I think you know, we talk about disposable and you know, there is now a 2013 vehicle which will be put up, I'm assuming, for disposal.
Correct.
So under that same vein, at a point, if the vehicle at the Sportsplex is not used enough or cannot be repurposed, it could be put up for disposal and put for sale on, say, Basic Bid or something along those lines to recoup those costs and put them towards something else.
Yeah, and I appreciate that lens on that. I guess I'm just really surprised that we do have a vehicle that after only 110,000 kilometers in this environment, I mean, that's quite something. That doesn't seem like a lot. for what vehicles up here would be. And I don't know what the Sportsplex vehicle is. I just noticed that a lot of the other municipalities are certainly moving to smaller vehicles. I understand the rationale, but I feel that there's some more room, and it doesn't sit well with me. So,
I mean, we could blame it on being a Ford, but you know.
well, there is that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I agree with you. I think I'm looking at other local governments, and they're moving to smaller two-wheel drive SUVs and things for certain purposes, or smaller pickup trucks. And a couple years down the road, I expect a few more to do. I'm hearing backlash on this because and returns on it, but a lot of them are moving to hybrids or electrics as well. Councillor Sim.
And just on that, because we did also under the Fire Smart grant also purchase a new vehicle, is that correct?
That is correct, yep.
That's correct. That vehicle was
Lease.
leased.
So it's leased.
It's leased, yes.
Okay, that's really good to know, actually. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I wanted to clarify something on the 110,000 kilometers. It had
you.
that when we bought it. It's at 150,000 now. So it's.
That's helpful.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry. That's why I wanted to.
And it's still a Ford. Sorry.
And it's still a Ford.
I know you're a Ford fan. Okay, so we do have a recommendation. What is the desire, council? The recommendation is that council direct staff to amend the current 2025 budget to include the purchase of a 2024 F-150 for up to $70,000 for the replacement of the current fire department duty vehicle, and the council direct staff to purchase a new 2024 F-150 for the fire department, replacing the current 2013 F-150 duty vehicle with funding for the fire department reserve fund. That is the recommendation. I'll move it from the chair if that gets things going.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation.
You'll second it or move it? You'll move it? Okay, I second it. You'll second it? Okay, Councillor Frizzle is now seconding it, moved by Councillor Herring. Further discussion? All those in favor?
So clarification is, it's coming from the Fire Department Reserve Fund. It's not going on taxation or anything like that.
No,
So,
it is coming from.
money in the bank
It's money in the
already.
bank already. For this purpose
Reserves.
that was supposed
Reserves, I
that-
understand.
Came from,
taxation, but this was set up to be purchased next year anyways.
Bumping ahead
It's
of
just
yours.
a year early. So, okay. Okay. All those in favor? It passes. Opposed? Noted. Councillor Sim.
thank you.
And a joyous one, I hope. Item 16.3, appointment of members to the Public Art Advisory Committee. And thank you to the members of council and staff that went out there and pounded the pavement to get some people to apply for this, because it looks like, from what I'm seeing, we have a heck of a good bunch there of applications. So there is a staff report. Any comments from staff?
So I just want to point out that this report actually has a bit of a typo in it. On the second page of the report, which is page 32 of 56 in the agenda, top paragraph, it says each of the 7 applicants brings value. There was actually 6 applicants. So there was a 7th person who stated they possibly were interested, but then never bothered to fill out the application or go through the process. So 6 applicants. The great news story is we seem to have some broad experience. We got to the amount that we wanted to have, which was 5 voting members. And the way 6 turns into 5 voting members is there was 1 youth member that the report is suggesting that we do request that she becomes the school liaison or the youth liaison role, which would be a non-voting position. So should be a pretty interesting committee. The areas where there was no real uptake was that we had, in the terms of reference, we were potentially seeking people with some architectural or urban planning type experience. We didn't seem to get any applicants for those type of disciplines, but pretty well rounded. You could see the actual applications attached.
Okay. Questions or comments for staff? Go ahead, Councillor Sim. Before you go, I'd just like to say, noting that one of the applicants does tattooing, the mayor's is not a palette or a canvas. If somebody wants to tattoo for public art, just letting that put out there in advance. Go ahead, Councillor Sim.
Thanks. I and you may or may not be able to answer this, but I was interested in the application and the questions that were asked there. And I wasn't sure, like, you are a property owner within the community, but there wasn't necessarily an indication that you could apply if you were just a tenant. Like, so I felt that was an odd one.
True.
And so if you got to that, I don't know why the seventh person, maybe didn't go through it, but based on these questions, it doesn't necessarily see that it would be open to that. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something to look at for future committees, is how we make sure that it is available to everybody. So it was either you're a property owner, you have a family owner who was the owner of a local business, and you've been convicted of a felony. It was just an odd assortment there. So I just wondered in that broad range of things, maybe they didn't own property or know somebody who had a business. So
Thank you, Councillor. That's noted for future applications that we do put out. I think that's a really interesting question, right?
I would agree. That's interesting.
And then my supplemental to that is that in terms of our youth representative, they're going to be graduating. I'm guessing that they're 18, which makes them legal age to vote. And so I'm not sure why it's a youth representative with no voting. They were one of the keenest applicants and one of the first to come forward. And so to be graduating and just considered a youth voice as opposed to actually a voting member of society, that doesn't sit well with me.
Thank you. And I think the rationale there was that the terms of reference have already been approved by council. The terms of reference said there's supposed to be 5 community members on it. So the potential exists if council says, hey, no, this is a great group, let's change the terms of reference. We could do that, but that's a bit of a longer, slower process. In my own experience, what often happens is people join organizations or join a committee and they find, this really isn't for them. So perhaps if we run this for 3 months or 6 months, we'll find someone drops out anyways. And if they do, then that frees up that space for that extra member and still live within the terms of reference. Or if they don't, if the committee could come back and make a recommendation to council to say, hey, we think we should include this person as a voting member. And we would bring that back to council if the committee made a recommendation as such.
So just to summarize, the terms of reference means that we need an uneven number, and we don't have an uneven number as it stands. Is this what you're saying?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So given that information, is there a way to either reach out for a 7th and maybe the committee, once they meet, they have that ability to say, you know what, here we've got somebody. Also noting that the criteria that we had asked for in the application could be limiting to people who applied. I'm just not able to confirm, our student voice is a student voice when I see them as an equal participant.
So I also note that it's not just an even number; it is actually set at 5.
So we'd have to choose.
We would have to change the terms of reference.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah. So, which we could do at a later date, if somebody wants to make that motion at a later date. Okay. What we do have on the table is a really long 4-part, but it is one recommendation. What is the desire of council?
Well, do we want to do it as one?
Right.
Or
So we
could do
actually
it-
have to do a counselor.
Yeah.
Would be designated as chair of this. Does somebody want to step forward to put themselves up there as the council chair for this?
I'm certainly happy to, because I really love the fact that we've talked so much about placemaking, but I also recognize that other people may be of an area that they'd like to learn more about as we go through this process too.
You all know how to chair meetings now.
Are we allowed to have a backup?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough.
So it could be a chair with alternate, or do we need to go back to the terms of reference?
I would put that question to staff.
That's a great question. we're happy to report back on that. My presumption is if there was an alternate, they could step into that chair role. That is very usually what is in the terms of reference.
So, do we want one and an alternate, or does somebody want to step forward for the chair position?
So why don't we put forward Councillor Bratton, and then if the
No. Oh. I would like to see Councillor Sim because you being here and understand how to run those. I would like to kind of watch and be a fly on the wall if that's allowed.
Anybody else?
I don't have anything. I just think if you. No.
Councillor Sim, do you accept being the chair?
thank you.
Yes. Okay, and Councillor Bratton will pencil you in as alternate. Okay, so with that, there still is a recommendation here. Does anybody want to move and second it? Okay, moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by somebody put up your hand.
So are we doing it all as one?
It's all as one.
Okay, yeah, so I it's going to sound strange, but I will still have to, I don't know how to get around Elise Williams as the non-voting youth liaison. I don't know how to reconcile that.
You could make a friendly amendment to strike non-voting, but I'll let Mr. Johnson speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have interested also on the dialing in on the conversation, and he said that the chair has to designate an alternate from within the committee, so it's not an alternate top member.
Okay.
The chair doesn't actually, according to the terms of reference, have to be a councillor. So, but it's expected that that alternate would be from within the committee.
Okay. Okay. So it's actually, okay, so this recommendation is technically incorrect on line 1, as for to the public advisor, it designates them as chair, so the chair may not be
Okay,
So it's just appointing a
a
counselor.
council member to the committee.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So that would make it, so the committee, and composition, the committee shall include a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 7 members.
Oh, my report says 5.
I'm
Anyways,
just reading
do
terms
we
of
want to
reference.
table this to the next meeting? I'm just gonna. But
Thank
I'll
you,
let
Mr. Mayor. I think that's a good idea because I've actually just had another late breaking communication that apparently Liz Shook has been cut from had to be cut from the committee as well. And I don't know any circumstances whether that was personal on her part or what. So that changes the numbers somewhat.
Motion to table.
So can we table this until? I
Yeah.
think that's a great idea.
Okay, we'll table
Thank
this
you.
for now. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
I thought this was going to be an easy meeting. I think I jinxed us.
We've been waiting for this.
We do have under 17.1, reading of the fire department regulations bylaw amendment, and I believe this is mostly housekeeping and updates. Oh, this is for adoption. Okay, so why do I have a recommendation to be introduced and read for a first, second time, and third time?
That's just the old report.
Okay,
So it's just
never
for
mind.
adoption now, yeah.
That's the, okay, good. Okay, so this is for adoption. Do I have a mover and a second on the fire department regulations bylaw number 223, amendment bylaw number 325, 2025 to be adopted?
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by, was that Councillor Herring? Sure it was. District of Clearwater bylaw number 325, 2025, a bylaw to amend District of Clearwater Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, 2021. Whereas section 137 of the Community Charter provides that the power to adopt a bylaw includes the power to amend or repeal it. And whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater wishes to amend District of Clearwater Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, 2021. Now therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the Volunteer Fire Department Regulations bylaw number 233, amendment bylaw number 325, 2025. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Okay, moving to page 4 of the agenda. No correspondence, response required. Information only, letter from the city of Enderby. No comments on that. No notice of motions, comments from the public, questions from the public? Anything? Seeing nothing. No need for any camera. Motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councilor Frizzle, seconded by Councilor Bratton. All those in favor, and we are adjourned.